You're live.
Welcome to Slow News Day Live. I am Steve Poikadid, and this is still Boulder Creek, still till it burns down. Still, yeah, I am joined by my better than your co-host, Glory Jones. What's happening, Glory?
Hi.
Good to see you. We're live during the week because I'm not working this week because my boss has a fucked off knee, so I get to do this, and this is awesome because today we have returning to the show, but for the first time at the same time, Whitney Webb and Johnny Vedmore, and that makes this the best fucking live stream on YouTube right now. We've gone ahead and titled this episode. Just go ahead and give us the content warning. Because it's coming anyway. No matter what. Let me throw it to you guys. What the hell's going on? It's good to see you. How's things?
Oh, things are interesting.
Can we do the happy dance because Rush Limbaugh died?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really care. So
I didn't know he died.
So Josh and I had apparently like similar asshole fathers because I was fucking subjected to hours of Rush Limbaugh in the car with my dad when I was a kid, and I think my dad thought he was supposed to be funny. Like that was his way of excusing the just like horrific shit that would come out of this guy's mouth. Like, oh, it's for entertainment. You're not supposed to take it seriously. And then all of a sudden the guy's like running the Republican Party and fucking be like he's keynote speaking the RNC and shit like that. And the headlining CPAC and basically just moving through life like a less anti-Voludian boss hog.
Did they do a parody of Rush Limbaugh in the Boondocks? Because I feel like they did. Otherwise, that's the extent of my knowledge.
Are you talking about Mr. Onceler?
yeah, he looks like Rush Limbaugh, but he's not.
He
a radio
does look
host.
like him, but I think Onceler is like a conglomeration of several fucks put together. So like you can't say he's just Rush Limbaugh.
And also a nod to the Lorax.
A chimera fuck.
Yes, totally. But I think they spell it differently,
I'm
right?
so glad you
To
guys
get
watched
around
the
that.
Boondocks.
They do. I don't know if you know this or not, but there is a tattoo on me of the Lorax standing on a tree stump, holding a chainsaw, drinking a martini.
Oh, I have a Boondocks tattoo. So
Fuck yeah.
together.
Oh my gosh. I love Boondocks.
I know. It's excellent. I'll make Johnny watch it sometime.
But my
eventually.
skin is unblemished. I have no markings. But you can draw on me if you want.
If I have to,
You know what? I do the same thing, Johnny.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I don't get tattoos is because I'm always drawing things on myself. So
That's a good route to go because you can rub it off. I've always regretted the idea of every idea I've had for tattoos. I've always regretted it a month later. So I just realized I just can't do it, man. I'm just a joker, so it comes around to the point where I just want jokes on me all the time, and that's not funny. And a joke that's not funny, well, where you go with that?
I mean, it really depends. And look, it's just your skin, man. It's not like it's your words, Johnny, which will be immortal, but your skin merely a canvas unless someone decides to make it a lampshade.
Mm-hmm. I know someone who makes really good lampshades, really good lampshades.
Not out of people, though.
Ooh. No. Well, I don't know. I've never asked her. Maybe she does. I mean, if you request it.
We've already been derailed.
Apologies. I don't want to get some Ed Gein on this. I don't want to be all. No.
I mean, we pretty much already invited you to
professionalism.
give us the QAnon context warning, so we're already doing enough for ourselves. Because in case if we didn't mention it enough, fuck you two.
Yeah. I'm with you on there.
Big thanks to the people who have recently come over to the show onto the Rockfin and people who have become supporters of the show via the Rockfin too. I don't know how long. I'm really amazed that we still have a channel on YouTube. I think they're merely happy suppressing the content and mass unsubscribing people and rolling back the view counts and fucking with the like. I think they're happy doing that. But when they decide to yank the channel, we'll be going full steam on Rockfin and on Odyssey, which should be having live streaming soon. There are ways around an alphabet platform. There are increasingly less ways around alphabet connected oligarchs in every aspect of our society. Is there I'm actually asking because I don't know, but is there a link between like Eric Schmidt or Eric Schmidt connected boards and the type of surveillance implemented and that will be used by the pre-crime division? Because we just had our first public pre-crime arrest.
I think most of that would be Peter Thiel and not Eric Schmidt. Google and Eric, the Google focus right now is on acquiring as much health data as possible right now, specifically like DNA data, genomics data, things like that. The stuff that the Google subsidiary has been doing with COVID-19 testing in the US is really nuts, because before they were doing COVID-19 testing, they were doing like DNA profiling of people and stuff like that. And, Google, Microsoft, they're all launching these huge healthcare systems, basically, that'll probably come with, insurance partnerships and things like that. And the way they want to be market leaders in that is to get as much of this data as possible. So I think, the focuses are a little different. If you want to talk about pre-crime, I think Peter Thiel is the oligarch that we're looking for.
Well, I mean, it's Bill Barr's baby, kinda, where the pre-crime division became a thing. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. Predictive policing was really spearheaded by Palantir.
You can see it in the acquisitions as well when they like get Carbine and people like that. They're investing in the places where prediction of the future is. Well, I mean, it's a financial game as well, isn't it? Because that's all the financial markets do. They try and predict the future, and so getting to know that area of cognizance, human cognitance, or however you say, is really good for them for expanding. When I did an article on a guy called Daniel Korsky, he was doing something called Panopticon Technology, and he was doing it with a guy called Mike Iams, who was from Scram Systems, and that was an alcohol monitoring system. And that was one of the first sort of monitoring systems that really was a wearable that attached to you.
You mean like a breathalyzer, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that
it was literally a strap that checked your sweat to see if it had alcohol in for people who were repeat offenders of alcohol offenses in America. And if the sensor sensed alcohol in your sweat, then they'd contact the people and they'd come out and get you. So this technology was already like started up in the 90s. These guys have already been started with like literally testing everybody who's involved in the bad stuff all go to the same places and all end up in the same places because they're all looking for this next step tech of preempting what people are going to do.
Yeah, and now that same thing that you just described with alcohol, they're set to roll out with opioid addiction in the US. So that's going to be really, really wild.
I feel like bringing up opioid addiction gives us an opportunity to kick Rush Limbaugh's corpse one more time.
Yeah. That's the only thing I really know that much about in relation to him, because I never listened to him. I was just like, oh yeah, he's like that fat asshole,
Yeah, he's that fat asshole that was also a sanctimonious blowhard about drugs and specifically in one
funny
of his,
how that
how that works. Books, he went off on this total rant about how all drug users are just the scum of the fucking earth and they all need to be rounded up and thrown away as the waste of society that they are, except for me.
He was projecting, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that with hatred with drugs, I think.
And let's be honest, man, Florida, where Rush was in the 90s,
or the 80s.
Or the 80s. I mean, look, between the cocaine and the pill mills, Florida was a great place to be if you were Rush Limbaugh.
As cocaine was in the process of single-handedly building the entire Miami skyline.
It's a crazy
and I reckon
city.
you go back to 1920s in Miami, and they're probably all taking laudanum or whatever it was, huffing some sort of opium. You know, that's the way it goes. It's not actually changed that much because, I mean, if you think about it, if you go back to, I mean, Britain in the 20s actually still had coffee shops selling marijuana and stuff and opium, and those all got banned. And now it's been years and years through this savage war on drugs where they use it as such an excuse to just destroy everybody, to target everybody, to surveil everybody, to lock up anybody they think might be a risk in another way, because that's what really drugs has been used for so long. It's just such, and it's usually the people who are doing it and targeting people are usually on drugs. So.
Well, I think also like it's the most intelligence is like so intimately involved in the opium trade and has been for so long. Like it's been so integral to like what the CIA's done for like decades and decades and decades and decades. Going back, you know, to like Papa Bush being CIA director and all the Southeast Asia stuff.
Poppy Bush.
With that to, you know,
that's
the 90s.
Why they called him Poppy Bush.
Yeah.
That's why. John Kiriakou told me a couple of years ago that that the CIA was integral in the opium and heroin trade in Iran and Russia, because it was a soft way for us to destabilize those countries. So we would help facilitate the transport from Afghanistan to Iran and then up through the pipeline up into Russia. And that was, it wasn't so much that the CIA was facilitating the export of Afghan heroin to the US. It was, they were using it as this is what he told me. So I don't, you know, I mean,
well, it's like, it definitely is something they use to destabilize countries and whole areas. Yeah. And it's something where they control the supply chain really intimately. And that's especially true now. You know, the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan was like the only war that was planned out, not by the military, but by the CIA. And the first boots on the ground were not military troops. They were CIA troops, basically, or like mercenary.
When I was talking about guys. Daniel Korsky earlier, the Daniel Korsky article, where he comes up in that selling, being involved in the counter narcotics of Afghanistan, which we all knew when they went into Afghanistan. All of the press put out these things, oh, it's terrible, these Taliban are filling up fields full of opium and they're being sold for heroin, where in actual fact they weren't coming in to liberate. We all know they were coming in to chop it down, exploit it themselves. I mean, the government and the intelligence agencies, they hide in drug rackets and stuff because it's already secretive. They can already keep a low profile in those areas, but they can also, I mean, look at what they did then with Afghanistan. It's at the same time, Hamid Karzai's brother was one of the biggest drug mules around the place, or drug traders around the place. So they installed someone to sell the drugs. They installed someone to make sure the foreigners were involved. They installed someone for the actual transport. These are all big operations that I think are the first things. They've kind of like had these plans. They've built them up over time, and now they're kind of like formatted. You go into a country that's got ability to produce drugs, and you use that to destroy the country, and then you take in the army.
Sorry, I didn't mean for the awkward moment. I was just absorbing all of that. Got a couple of people chiming in over on the Rockfin, or at least throwing money at me, so I should thank them. Thank you, Gone Girl and Icy Irony. If you're not watching this on the Rockfin, you're missing out. It's free to make the account.
Yeah, guys, thanks for the super raise.
Our friend Pasta is very extra. He's a very, very, very extra human being. So he will go to ridiculous lengths to thank people. I think you're humans. I don't know.
What?
This is not me. Like, I don't know. I don't get like super like I don't know, over the top about that kind of shit, because I think it would make me feel weird if somebody was coming at me extra like enthusiastic in any way, shape, or form. I'm like, so I guess as a, you know, I guess I try to do the same thing. I don't try and like, I don't know, go over the top with too much. I know that I say crazy shit, but it's usually delivered in a mild cadence. I feel like
a Plago cadence. Amen. I know my cadences. Don't start me off on cadences.
We really do appreciate your super raise, guys.
It's true. It's true. We do. We're going to take the show full time in April. So that's going to be.
Wow! Congratulations.
Look, man. I feel like we've got this, you know, small window of opportunity to really get out information and push back against the coming dystopia before it's our job to accelerate its self-destruction. So until they lock me up or fucking shut off the internet, I'm going to do this full time. I have a large project. I'm a carpenter. I have a large project that we're wrapping up. And then when I complete that project, we'll be transitioning to doing this full time. There will be trinkets, t-shirts and shit like that. I was actually thinking about making a Whitney Webb is always right t-shirt.
We have a shit ton of ideas for t-shirts. For t-shirts, realistically.
I'd wear that t-shirt. Keep me out of trouble.
Yeah, and while we're here, I figure I might as well openly challenge Whitney for your hand, Johnny.
Okay.
I will fight you, Whitney Webb.
Right.
I will fight you.
So a duel.
No.
Swords to dawn.
My money's on Whitney.
Everybody's money is on Whitney. Everybody's money. I point out that even with a bad leg, I can probably run faster scared than you can pissed. So I feel good about at least my chances of survival.
Okay. Well, I like the idea. I'll give you a leg rub.
I don't even have to run for president for that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll do it.
I don't have to go. I don't have to get a job as a lifeguard. I don't have to threaten any random gangster with a length of chain. Shit,
man, I've done some crazy shit. I'll do that.
I was doing so well not remembering Joe Biden's hood fantasy, Steve.
Hey, Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Corn Pop's my favorite story of all time.
Hey, but didn't Biden today have some good quotes or something? Some like recent gaffes.
Go ahead, Jodes, because I don't have the exact quote in front of me.
Me neither, but I remember it well. So President-elect Joe Biden, basically he had a little town hall for some reason. I don't know why he agreed to that. One of the questions was, are racial disparities in COVID-19 vaccinations a priority for your administration, and how will they be addressed? And Biden's response to that is to go on a tirade about how African Americans and Latinos don't get the vaccine because they don't know how to go online to get in line at Walgreens.
Oh, it's beautiful. These guys are they've not changed in all of the years, but they just keep polishing themselves up a little bit more. That's all it is. That's all.
Yeah.
U.S. politicians have the worst quotes about the internet. You have like Ted Stevens, right? The internet is a series of tubes. And now you have racist.
So am I. I'm a series of tubes too. We all are. Oh my God. And
now you have Biden being like, ethnic minorities can't use the internet. So he's like racist Ted Stevens internet comment.
Exactly. So my whole reply to that was basically, why, yes, you racist piece of shit. It's not the history of medical experimentation on Black and brown people severely justifying our mistrust, or the shadiness of the military operation to jab us that casually contracted the perpetrators of the opioid crisis and predicted policing. It's because we can't internet.
No, internet. Sorry, that was a racist impression because
Joe Biden is like one mint julep away from telling everyone how he feels about the help. He really is. I would love,
in public.
I would love for,
his top science advisor that he's elevating to a cabinet level position is like all tied up in the eugenics crowd. He gave this toast of James Watson, the geneticist guy who had to retreat from public life because he told the BBC in 2007 that we can't nation build in Africa because they're too genetically inferior to be able to respond well to Western policy. And talked about how everyone had inferior, how minorities have inferior intelligence, and it's genetic. And all of this stuff. And then this guy in 2018 offers a toast to this guy and is like, he pushed us to challenge frontiers of, science.
Of what? Phrenology?
Of humankind. Yeah, whatever. And so he got in a bunch of trouble in 2018 for doing that. But now he's been appointed to the top post in Biden's, science office in the White House. And the way the people that criticized him before are saying it's okay now is because the number 2 person in that office is an African-American woman. So it absolves him of anything he's ever done. That's racist.
Wait, so because his immediate subordinate is a person of color, it's okay?
Yes.
Oh, that's some nifty logic.
That's the argument.
That's the rules. You got to play by them.
Yeah, guys, you're white, so you don't understand how this works. It's like we have a half Jamaican woman president now. It's like, Fauci did brag about how a Black woman developed the Pfizer vaccine. So,
we solved racism then.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Job well done, America.
Well,
we have rainbow flag drones.
Well, they're like using, these people they've diversity picks or whatever as sort of like a disguise for people that are obviously have racist, associations, like Joe Biden himself. And so, it doesn't matter that he was buddies with Strom Thurmond and gave his eulogy because Kamala Harris is the vice president. And same thing with this guy. Well, it doesn't matter because the subordinate below him is, is African American, so it's fine. I mean, it's just ridiculous, but some of the stuff this guy's done, should have been caused a media uproar to an extent because he was also funded by Epstein, and he is about to be nominated to he has a Senate confirmation hearing coming up, but they haven't scheduled it yet. But I doubt they're even going to ask him about the Epstein money or the Epstein meeting. He's in a picture with Epstein, meeting with him.
To be honest, I'm not sure that I'm not sure that's a bad thing in their world. I think if you've had a meeting with Epstein, that like puts a little gold star on you.
Privately. Right. But I mean, the fact that like the media, like BuzzFeed in January after this guy's nomination was like, he did not receive funds from Epstein, but the New York Times even reported in 2019 that Epstein's website said he had the special privilege of funding this guy, whose name is Eric Lander, by the way. And he's going to be the top science official in the entire U.S. government. He's an Epstein scientist that praised this racist asshole. And this is the diversity-focused, we believe in science administration. This is their top pick for top science guy. So that his science is the kind of science they want to do. And he's a shady guy. He's all teamed up with he runs something called the Broad Institute now, which is like this MIT Harvard partnership that's funded by private philanthropy. And it has Eric Schmidt on the board. It has the chairman of Apple and a couple other tech companies on the board. And they just partnered with Google and Microsoft to give Silicon Valley access to a bunch of private electronic healthcare records of Americans. So that's what this is, that's the kind of stuff that he'll obviously be promoting when he's up there, this whole Silicon Valley taking over healthcare. And I think after that, they're going to sell this to progressives as Medicare for all, this like Silicon Valley healthcare from like the new the Google Life Sciences division and Microsoft's healthcare. I mean, all these big Silicon Valley firms now have big healthcare startups that are like AI powered that they're planning to really ramp up in the next couple of years. And what they'll probably do is make their like little city states in places like Nevada now, right? With that, if that law gets passed,
innovation zones.
You can't pay your rent. You can't pay healthcare. Come live in Microsoftopolis, and we'll give you free healthcare and free housing, but it'll be a smart home, and you'll be surveilled all the time, and you'll have to wear this, biometric thing so we can keep your health optimum. And it's part of the free healthcare. They're totally going to do all this stuff, and we'll see how many progressives fall for it.
They're straight up
worry free.
A lot.
Yeah, they're straight up turning Nevada into sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
Your worry free innovation living facility, life, work, dining.
It sounds like a video game. It sounds like a Fallout style video game, the Nevada desert, roaming it in Silicon Valley dystopia. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd play it if it was
The Sims, Hellscape.
If you remember what was written above like Auschwitz with the Arbeit macht frei, like work will set you free, and the whole point was to say you're going to work yourself to death, and we're gonna laugh and watch you. Well, I think nowadays they're working under the principle that tech will set you free, and that same sort of principle. Tech will set you free of all of this mortal coil and all of these worries that you've got. Instead of going to a doctor and having to worry about making appointments, you can go to an app that will tell you what we want you to think, and then you can feel better about it, because psychologically that works. But I think there's a real like comparison between that. I think that these big cities are more like techno concentration camps eventually, where you'll be watched. Yeah, they won't be as horrific at the start as the concentration camps became, but I mean, these things go downhill eventually. All of these things go downhill, because the people inside there are eventually going to get trapped inside these little bubbles.
Well, who do you think the police are going to be in these cities? Who are the police going to be? Microsoft funded police. I mean, that's insane.
That's
it's
what
like
the legislation says.
Yeah.
The legislation itself gives a corporation the right to pass laws, form a police force, fucking imprison people, set up their own courts. Are you fucking kidding me?
And here comes the Bill and Melinda Gates ambulance.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, I understand that there's nominally not much difference between a corporate court and the court system that we currently have. Nominally not much, but they're just fucking mask off about this shit. And I think you're right, Whitney. I think that's a good cover to sell progressives Medicare for all, because they're gonna take it. They're gonna take whatever you offer them, because they're wired to have this emotional response to things, and based on how they feel at the emotional level, that's how they're going to make their decision. And these are essentially like neoliberals with training wheels, or liberals who want healthcare and not much else. Like, they're totally cool with soft imperialism, or the imperialism they don't see. They're anti-war to a point, but will excuse AOC and Bernie Sanders and all that shit. Like, it's when it comes down to it, they want to feel good about the things that they want to see done. And if all they want to see done is Medicare for all, and somebody presents them a form of Medicare for all that is really, AI driven fucking health tyranny, they'll jump on it. If somebody presents them a Green New Deal that is really fucking Klaus Schwab's fucking wet dream, they'll jump on it.
In 2018, you all know a Harari who's like this darling of the World Economic Forum.
Oh my God.
We did a bonus video.
I was just watching that this morning.
Yeah. And he talked specifically in 2018 about how people will give up their privacy in exchange for better healthcare, and that the goal is to get surveillance of what's going on inside the body, Right. And he calls this like the red line for, well, we called it that in the video based on what he was saying, that he sort of like marks that as like a red line, like the Rubicon to cross into the new era of digital dictatorships that he talks about a lot. So we cross into that era of digital dictatorships when people start wearing wearables or receiving injectable, technologies. And things like that.
Harari's been doing this for a while too. He has a trash, and it's awful. I regret reading it so much, but he has a trash book called Homo Deus, and I know it's pronounced Homo Deus, but Homo Deus is a clear signal of my inherent disrespect for the dude. It's called Homo Deus. It's a trash ass book, and basically the whole premise of it is setting the stage for new evolution, an evolution of the human species, which is essentially a transhumanist fantasy.
Yeah. It's the same conversations that we're having by the eugenics scene in 1920s as well, just before they managed to have their go at changing the way. Where if you go back to national health systems and national healthcare systems and how they can sell that to you, it's a real trip listening to you guys speaking about the American system, because most people will probably say to you like something along the lines like, "Oh, we have the NHS over in Britain and that's free and we don't have all of these worries." But what people don't really know about what's going on in the NHS is that we've basically got a system like yours. We've got a system like yours, but it's cloaked to make it look like it's all public. In actual fact, they're paying like sometimes £8, £10, £15 for paracetamol to these private companies. So that's coming out of the taxpayers. That's us paying anyway in all different types of ways. But also, like when my granddad, my last granddad to pass, was in hospital, he had dementia and he had really bad hips because he had forgotten to walk. And so he was like really, really stiff. He had to be in hospital all of the time. He was always in pain. Even care homes couldn't look after him very well, so he ended up going back into hospitals. And they sent in troops of solicitors to the NHS, the caring free health service, troops of solicitors to stop that spending happening, to try and get my granddad out of hospital and to stop him from being treated. And he had paid in all of his life to this system. But when you want the system, it's actually more of a private system. You think it looks public, but they've infiltrated it from every area. And what they're doing over there now is they're creating that system that can be infiltrated. They're creating a system that is ready for infiltration, that's ready for all of these hawks to come in. And now it's got to the point where it's just like the private-public partnership idea, which failed so dramatically through the Tony Blair era in the UK, where we had all of these private-public partnerships open up with the NHS, and it cost so much money, and they didn't supply the services, and it all went wrong, and people can still complain about it today, but it's infiltrated our system in the same way your system's being built to be infiltrated. So that Medicare for all, that fantasy of it, we don't even get it when you think you got Medicare for all, when you think you've got a national health service like we have, like free healthcare. It's not really free, because the majority of people who will pay the price, and the biggest currency there is dead people, is the people who are failed by the system, end up on hospital beds outside for weeks and weeks. Before the COVID-19 crisis, you can go back every 3 months through the headlines of the UK, and they always say the same thing: National Health Service in crisis, National Health Service, showing pictures, long pictures. Now is the only time where they don't do that, but they're still saying National Health Service in crisis. But it's not really a national health service. It's a private healthcare system that, instead of passing the losses across to monetary figure, actually it puts that cost out into death, because bad treatment leads to people dying, and that saves them money, or pushing them out, using solicitors to push them out. So Medicare for all, NHS, Canadian systems, I bet you'll find they're all of the same. They're all of the same. They're all big rich men trying to make sure that the weak and poor die, and the rich and powerful don't. Sorry, a little bit of a rain.
No, all good.
What, man, When it comes to healthcare, it's weird because it does kind of seem like a common sense thing where if everybody put into a large risk pool, it would minimize cost for everyone else. But we live in like end stage capitalism and the stupidest possible timeline. So I don't trust Nancy Pelosi or Kamala Harris or any of these fucks to like shepherd a national healthcare system. I don't think that.
Well, I think what they'll do
instead,
and who knows what'll happen, right? But we'll see what happens. But I think what may be likely instead is that there's, they'll have you just like a smartphone, you can choose between Google and Apple and Microsoft, and you have your like Obamacare, you're federally mandated to choose one, and they'll be like, it's all free and you get to choose. Market competition, and it's built from the bottom up by the Silicon Valley companies. That seems more in line with the US model.
I think you're really close with the idea of Google Care, Amazon Care. I think those are literally going to be Apple Care. That's literally what's going to come out on top.
Amazon just bought like really recently, I think, even if not right before COVID, then right after, like the biggest online pharmacy, and they just created one of these wearable things that can measure your emotional state as well as your health status.
Wait, hang on.
They have mood rings.
And then they give you, and then with the online pharmacy, they're going to send you the pill, right? So like you wear the fitness wearable, and it's like you sound depressed. And then antidepressants from Amazon come in the mail, delivered by a drone.
Unbelievable.
That's where we're at.
I mean,
I don't know if it's that, more like enslavement ring.
They will know that you hate them really loads. That's what's going to happen. They're going to get a really bad sense of self after this. Like, they're going to be really self-conscious all the time because they'll be like, well, our data says that everybody hates us. Even my family hate me. My daughter hates me. My son hates me. My uncles hate me. Oh, even my dead dad hates me from beyond the grave. Now we've got him in the cloud. It's like literally, I think that this is the thing about all AI and collecting data from people. At the end of the day, they're not going to want to read that data because I think people are clearly going to like project out.
But that just creates a market for a virtual existence where everyone likes you. So all of these executives will then have a VR playland to go to where they're king shit of Turd Mountain and fucking everyone adores them. And their dad from the cloud comes down to tell them what a good job they're doing. Fucking Uncle Murray over there fucking brings like 2 hookers with him. Like, here, now I can't believe you have so successfully enslaved the entire population. Have a blowjob on me.
Oh, the dream.
Oh my God.
Wow. Schwab looks down proudly.
From which position? I don't know. I just... Oh, that's horrible. Klaus Schwab.
Right?
Don't get me started on Klaus Schwab.
So wait, no, hang on, man, because you keep promising me some bloodline history about Klaus Schwab, but I think now may be the time to do it.
No.
Incredibly sus ones.
No. I'm not talking about any of this. Yeah.
Oh, you fucking tease.
Yes.
We're almost ready. Hey,
almost.
Johnny, maybe we can make it up to Steve by when it's out. You can come on as the first interview. Steve was my first interview in my Epstein series. The first one came out.
It'll be by a sheer fucking like coincidence stroke. It had something planned entirely different too. And Whitney was like, hey, instead of the thing we were gonna talk about, got something I'm gonna drop that day that might be a little bit more interesting. Like, okay, I'll take your word for it.
I'm gonna do the same. When we have that conversation, it will be an extremely interesting conversation.
Yeah, because this is on that level, not to be too much of a tease again, but it's wow.
You're both assholes.
Yeah.
It's on that level. It's that level. It's a dancing level.
I mean, Jesus, dude, my interest and my intrigue is piqued. You have me right where you want me. You do.
Give me about a week. Give me about a week. About a week.
Yeah, all right.
It'll be less than that.
All right. Well, shit, man. Let's take a victory lap here, Whitney, over being like you're one of the only people on the planet that reported on it. We're one of the only shows on the planet that fucking covered it. But pre-crime, man, will you for posterity and for the rest of the class, just let people know what you covered back in 2019? When, people still had time to like get used to this concept and have it not be a surprise.
All right. So I think it was October 2019. Bill Barr signed a memorandum that went all around the Department of Justice that was about, he was announcing this new, basically what's a pre-crime program. It's called DEEP, Disruption and Early Engagement Program. That was basically justified at the time to stop mass shootings before they happen. This was one of several things that happened in that period of time. One of the things we saw come up, for example, was Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner and the former head of NBC Universal lobbying for the creation of HARPA, a healthcare-focused equivalent of DARPA that would scrape people's social media posts and use an AI algorithm to analyze them for signs of violent behavior that could lead to them at some point, perhaps, maybe, possibly committing a mass shooting, and that they would be engaged early by law enforcement, which included numerous things, including the ability to detain someone. And of course, with the NDAA for several years, there's been the indefinite detention clause in there, but it doesn't mention that, obviously. But it also talked about how they can put tracking devices on people that they suspect. Which I think we may see more of now that 2021 is looking to be the year of the wearable, whereas 2020 was like the year of the RNA vaccines. And that was what they were talking about all year. And then they finally start to be publicly pushed out at the end of the year. I think that is what we're going to see this year for wearables. And they've been coming up with this, pushing for this for a long time under different guises. And for different reasons, but this whole scraping social media posts and making pre-crime arrests based on that has happened. The most recent case that I know of, anyway, taking place last month in relation to the Capitol insurrection. But there were several in previous years also, once this, or really in between the end of, it went live in 2020. So over the course of last year, there were a few. And this also went on with different types of predictive policing strategies and new innovative law enforcement strategies in high crime areas of the country. Trump kept talking about this when he was in office, if you remember back. And they were piloted in places like Detroit and Baltimore and whatnot. And, of course, in years prior, under the Obama administration, Palantir was doing predictive policing studies in, African-American dominant neighborhoods in New Orleans, for example. And I think in LA, they still are involved in doing that and identifying these hot zones.
Yeah.
And things like this. So this has been something that's been going on for a very long time, actively promoted by the Trump administration at the end of 2019, enabled by Bill Barr. And then the HARPA stuff was like really creepy. And I'm really glad they didn't advance that, but that tells you where it's going. DARPA wants all up in your healthcare business. What do you think HARPA is about? The healthcare DARPA. And that was in 2019, well before COVID. So it's pretty telling. And now, the mRNA vaccine technology by both Moderna and Pfizer is based off of technology developed originally by DARPA. And DARPA is still intimately involved in Moderna as a company. And you have, the former DARPA guy being the top vaccine coordinator for Warp Speed and all of this stuff. It's pretty telling, honestly. But DARPA's next bid, and same with a lot of these Silicon Valley companies that are rolling this stuff out now, or this wearable market that they're going to really try and promote. And one of the developments in here too is the mandatory use of an Air Force squadron. They're piloting it. They hope to make it throughout the whole Air Force and possibly the whole military soon, are a mandatory smartwatch in the uniform. in a coming mandatory smart ring. The ring will predict if you have COVID-19 weeks before you show symptoms, which is, of course, an outgrowth of a DARPA program started in 2010 called Prophecy, which had various successor programs about predicting illness before you show symptoms. This all goes back to fucking DARPA. And I was just reading about something totally unrelated for my Epstein book, and it talks about how DARPA was funding AI and supercomputers, but pivoted with the Papa Bush administration when they decided to start focusing on mapping the human genome, climate change, and like disease model, like all this stuff that's going on right now, basically, that's of interest right now. They were going to start pivoting. DARPA was going to start pivoting towards that and applying AI to those purposes and advancing transhumanism and AI as a way to solve these big existential questions of will humanity survive, you know, sort of like the 3 threats that Yuval Harari identifies in his speeches and stuff like that. So we live in a crazy world, don't we, guys?
It's true. It's true. So it seems like, I don't know. What is it, like a 2-year overlap now between when you unsuccessfully introduce the horrific technology and then people forget about it a little bit, and then conditions change and you're like, oh, we have this horrific technology we unsuccessfully pitched a year or so ago that would be just perfect for this. Yeah. Let's go ahead and slide it in.
I was going to say pitching is a really good example of this, because this is what it's all about. It's about having products nowadays, these technology products that are flexible to pitch in all different types of ways. So when we're talking about Carbine 911, they're able to start off by pitching, oh, this will be emergency service. Then it was, oh, this will be help for COVID. Then this will be a way to do this, preempt crime, etc., etc. So it molds as they get consent, or they think they've got enough consent from the lawmakers, not from the people, never from the people.
One thing I want to add really quick too about this military thing is I think they're saying it's about healthcare, right? But I think a lot of this is about the insider threat programs that they're ramping up at the military, specifically after January 6th. The Secretary of Defense talked about that, how there's like this, I forget what it's called. He like issued some order of like a 60-day stay on something so that they could talk, commanders, whatever, could talk to the people under them about the issue of extremism and all of this stuff. But DHS at the end of last year started really ramping up their insider threat program, and that was through surveillance. So to think that, the national security state obviously more worried about an insider threat than before, you're going to have all these people with, forced to wear stuff on their hands that records what they say, can pick up their biometric details and things like this.
Emotional state.
Yeah.
And can tell if they can win the lottery 2 weeks in advance.
Well, and it can tell when they're lying.
Maybe that's how Epstein won the lottery. He did.
It can tell when they're lying to the superior officer about how they feel about certain political things. I mean, this is if any other country, especially if it was a country that America didn't like, had a leader that came in during a contested election with the military called in to lock down the Capitol during the peaceful transition of power, we would be bombing them. We would be invading them because they needed Western style democracy, because obviously they hadn't done it right.
Did you see that they extended that? They're now saying those that deployment's going to continue through fall. So originally it was for inauguration, and they're like, oh, we're extending it through March. Now we're getting close to March. They're saying through fall. This is permanent. I think they're going to be there permanently.
We're going to go say hi to them on St. Patrick's Day. A month from today.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah. I'm bringing puppets. Giant puppets.
I'm bringing this.
Woohoo! Giant fucking puppets. Yeah.
What kind of puppets? Like Wonder Shows and puppets?
So the concept is, because it's St. Patrick's Day and because it's a Julian Assange related protest, the concept is we're going to have like a 12 foot bestilted, Julian Assange as St. Patrick that is driving the rats of the national security state and corporate media through the streets of Washington, D.C. So there will be rat puppets and a large Assange puppet. That's the concept at any rate.
I'm all in for the puppets. I love a bit of puppets.
Who doesn't love a fucking puppet, man?
I know. They do in Cardiff where they do a little puppet show every year in the Welsh College of Music and Drama.
Okay, and we're talking
stuff.
like large and absurd Punch and Judy style. I'm actually trying to get a hold of the 60s protest organization performance theater troupe Bread and Puppet for this thing. I feel like we're at a point to where, doing protests the way that we have been, even where there, you got people and signs and occasional violence. That's not.
Mm-hmm.
There's an element of absurdity that's missing. The situation itself is so fucking absurd.
The police will end up infiltrating these events with their own puppets. They'll have to come in and infiltrate things and have like puppets breaking windows and
they'll come in one puppet that's like dressed in all black with like a camo backpack and some fake sunglasses.
Sorry, go on.
Just the thought of a police force fucking being like, okay, who's good at arts and crafts? We got to do this. Like that fills me with joy. It does. Internal memo: who's good at making puppets?
That would be great.
We've got to infiltrate a group, and we need you to bring your best arts and crafts skills to the table. That'd be awesome. We're going to workshop some creativity here.
The puppet infiltration division of federal law enforcement.
It's coming. It's coming. It probably already exists. We all know that they're doing funky stuff down there.
And it wouldn't even be the craziest thing they've done.
No,
not by a long shot.
No. Wasn't there that one CIA release in the 60s that they put all this electronic spyware inside the body of a cat to like turn it into like a surveillance device, and the cat would walk around and record things, and they spent like a buttload of money on it, and then they put it out for the first time ever. It walks 3 steps and gets murdered and run over by a car.
I love cats, but that's funny.
Well, just like the CIA is like super incompetent, and for as long as the horrible list of their successes is, they do have also an equally long list of hilarious failures. Because the only reason they get away with this stuff is because no one holds them accountable. That's the only thing. I mean, they don't have to be smart about it.
I actually asked John Kiriakou like why, and that's basically what he said. Why does the playbook never change? Why do we see the exact same scenarios playing out over and over and over? And he was like, well, to be perfectly honest with you, they're not as smart as everybody thinks they are, and nobody holds them accountable. So when you lack creativity and you face no consequences, you use the same playbook.
Steve, those are our brave men and women in the clandestine services. They deserve better.
I'm pretty sure they decide what to do with like an 8-ball, and they try and fill it with the ghost of Alan Dulles. And then they're like, "Can we do this?" And then whatever it comes out, they're like, "Ah."
Somebody's over in the corner ripping out chicken guts, looking for James Jesus Angleton.
They're doing like a seance with Richard Helms.
Oh my god, wild.
Hell yeah, I can totally see that. You wouldn't get Angleton from a Ouija board. Like you would have to take the life from something and read its guts. You would.
You and your fucking
just
sacrifices, Steve.
I think this invention's got to be called the Manchurian 8-ball. Really, it's like tells you what to do, and then you end up going and
destabilizing a third world country.
Will I fall in love? Oh, I just took down Cuba.
Will I be successful in life? Ah, man, I gotta go to Iran now.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me feel slightly better about all the awful things I write about. I write about all the awful things these people do all the time, and then I'm like, well, at least they're idiots.
It
makes
could
me
be
feel a
far
little better.
worse. Yeah, it really could. It could, like, the successes could be greater and much more subtle. And what I guess,
but like they're so dumb. Like an example, Epstein at MIT acted as a funnel for donations from Bill Gates. Bill Gates, for some reason, didn't use the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for this donation. He passed all this money to Epstein. It came out in leaked emails. And Bill Gates' response was, oh, well, I had to give the money to Epstein because he knows lots of rich and powerful people. But you, Bill Gates, are a rich and powerful person with a large, well-respected foundation. Why would you not just donate to MIT yourself when you already donate to MIT in a bunch of different labs there? Why do you need to give the money to Epstein? And he was like, well, he just knows a lot of rich people. Like Bill Gates isn't, part of the World Economic Forum, which is all the rich, powerful people. Like, I mean, it's just obviously didn't hold water, but no one ever challenged him on it on media,
You see, the thing is that Bill Gates is he's antisocial, he's shy, doesn't get out much. He built an entire compound around the entire city where he established Microsoft headquarters. They literally call it Gatesville. So being an agoraphobe and not really, not really appreciating the spotlight. Bill Gates, not a camera hog. We all know that.
Well, you've seen him on the when he's I don't know what it is. It's some sort of like affidavit or something. Recorded affidavit, where he's shaking backwards and forwards.
The antitrust hearing in the late 90s.
Yeah. And he's like, and that is seeing the true Bill Gates. That's what he's actually like.
He's like a goblin.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little goblin that lives in the Pacific
I find
Northwest.
goblin cute, and I don't find Bill Gates cute, so I don't dig that analogy.
Speaking of not cute goblins, 2021, you still have an open shot at Henry Kissinger.
Still time, 2021.
There is
plenty of time.
I gotta say, man, we're on the right trajectory. We are. Who was it? Schultz? George Schultz. George Schultz. Yeah, Adelson. I mean, Rush Limbaugh. It seems a little bit of a step down from George Schultz. It really does. But you've got plenty of time to make up for it. 2021. Take Henry Kissinger, semi-sentient collection of liver spots. Take him, please. Take him from us now.
Speaking of Kissinger, I was looking back at Theranos. Do you guys remember them? A lot of people have forgotten about it, but it was like this fraud. It was supposed to be a blood testing company, and you would have basically this device in your house, and you would put like a couple droplets of your blood, I guess, in it every day, and it would tell you if you were coming down with a disease. So it's supposed to be this medical company. Well, the technology didn't work at all, and it was exposed as a fraud, but the people on the board included George Schultz and Henry Kissinger, and a bunch of people that have no place in connection with a company like that. And then, eventually some guy at the Wall Street Journal started like critically reporting on them. And then the whole thing just fell apart. It just collapsed. I mean, it was like an obvious front for something from the beginning, but they wanted to like get access to people's like fluids and stuff, sort of like they're doing now with the COVID-19 testing stuff. It's just like they're storing all that data, do you think they keep it, even if they tell you they don't? I don't know, but it's interesting to see that those same people were in, Theranos was basically trying to normalize having this device in your home that collects your, type of biometric data from you, your DNA, your blood samples, and all of this stuff for, increased disease surveillance. Back then, Kissinger on the board, just weird. Also, a lot of the digital identity platforms, some of them are being beta tested right now by the International Rescue Committee that's headed by like David Miliband and stuff. But on the board, that's co-led by ex-Secretary of the Treasury under Obama, Timothy Geithner, and the Vice President of Pfizer. Henry Kissinger's there too, on this charity to help kids. And I think Madeleine Albright and Condoleezza Rice, all the child helpers. Oh, I mean child murderers are on the board. So they do the stuff all over.
Make a note to David Miliband, because in the next decade he will be Prime Minister of the UK. He's a prince across the water. He's currently heading up that, but he's known in the Labour Party circles as a prince across the water. When Ed Miliband, his brother, took over the Labour Party, there was like a battle between those two, and Ed Miliband basically stabbed his brother David in the back, and David went off to work for this NGO elsewhere, and it's all very corrupt. But he's building up his kudos for when he returns to power.
Yeah,
because they're desperate for him to return and be the Labour's prince across the water that will beat the Conservatives in an election, and he will be like their savior. Look, this man who helps children, and look how lovely he is, look how good he is. But there's loads of dodgy stuff with what he's doing at the moment. So,
do you see us at the West broadly, and I I'm going to ask you guys to speculate, but do you see us continuing on the charade of elections at the end of the decade?
No, in the US, no, for sure, no. Unless it's like just lever pulling, and there's like one party or something. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I don't expect there to be any like real. I mean, I've thought elections in the US, especially the national level, have been rigged really for decades, but a lot of that has been through rigging the primaries to make sure that in the general election that's more like audited and observed, regardless of what candidate wins, the establishment wins.
And you can see that with all the gerrymandering as well. I mean, gerrymandering the districts to make sure that they know what they win.
But with the introduction of like electronic voting and all of that stuff, that has come with controversies, and a lot of that is obviously well-founded, but they're trying to expand that even more. Microsoft has made Election Guard, has been pushing it for years. Biden's totally doing that. Right after the 2020 election, I think it was either a VP or maybe it was the president of Microsoft said that Election Guard is going to be nationwide for 2024 U.S. general election. So Microsoft is going to be running the elections. But, the head of DHS's CISA that was there for the 2020 election, Chris Krebs, was a top former Microsoft executive for Microsoft's partnership with the government and promoted Election Guard all the time. So, I mean, they're already kind of in charge.
What will take the place of these what we know nowadays as well? Will we eventually be voting for an algorithm? Will we be voting for the algorithm that does this, or the algorithm that does this, the algorithm that produces this, or the algorithm that produces that? What do we prefer in our society for the algorithm to do for us? And will the representative be a transhuman or just a robot? We don't really know where the future of voting is going to be once humans are not in control anymore, because I think humans brought the voting.
As we get closer to the reality that Futurama predicted for us, I can only hope that we do have like the floating head of fill in the blank. Or floating head of Nixon. That'd be at least give us something to like recognizable to hate, something familiar to hate. I mean, Robot Congress, that's just so impersonal. And I feel I like if people are going to go to the point to where they've deified their political figures, like with Saint Bernard and actual paintings of Jesus hugging Trump in the Oval Office.
Oh my God! Yeah. They do that for like every president.
They do.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, did you see that Netflix documentary, The Family?
No, but I read the book. Is this what's his name? The guy that wrote it.
The people who put on the National Prayer Breakfast.
Yeah, no, I know them. I actually wrote. We could talk about this for a long time. My thesis in college talked about them a lot. I majored in the far right Christian extremist groups. The family are nuts. It was like 1/3 of the members of Congress. Well, back when I was doing this in like 2011, 2012, were affiliated or members of the family. They only have that one public event every year, the National Prayer Breakfast, and that's how people know them. But they like behind the scenes are so shady, have this huge endowment. It's massive. It's totally like basically a black budget. It has no accountability. They don't publish anything. They don't pay taxes.
They have their own fucking compound where it's like just male only lives there, and then they have like little soirees with the other compound where just Christian ladies live, and it's like a fucking weird matchmaker. Fucking just like
Well, they're Christian dominionists, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Which is like basically a theocracy in the U.S., but it's really a Christian Zionist theocracy, not middle-aged style.
They're there to make sure that the rapture happens. They're there to make sure that I'm not kidding, man. It's just their whole philosophy is like Jesus picked the leader. So it's our job to support the leader, no matter who the leader is, as long as it's our leader. Like, it's our guy. If it's our guy, then Jesus picked him. If it's not our guy, then it's our job to make sure that we get Jesus's guy in there.
You're talking right now. You're talking like the bottom roots, the main foundation of nearly everything that's going on in the world as well, wrong with the world, because all of these people who are like that need that to happen, but need to gain power for that to happen. So everybody from Benjamin Netanyahu to George W. Bush were all of those type of people who believed that creating this idea of what their religious fantasy for an end time that'll see them being on top.
It's been going on for a long time.
This is what we're dealing with here. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I've seen it.
John Kerry's taking a dump. Not John Kerry, sorry, John McCain. He's taking a dump up there.
No, McCain does look like he's straight up pinching a fucking loaf at that one, dude.
Man, I'm
really
gonna throw up.
Every time I wish we wouldn't. Maybe we wouldn't. I don't know, man. It's not worth the fucking getting the channel yanked for it. But like every time somebody mentions John McCain, I feel obligated to like share the clip of Tim Dillon doing Meghan McCain.
Yeah,
it's intense. That thing is it's giving me so much.
Her father is now in
hell. Or that Alex, like Josh just said, the Alex Jones clip. It was her father that famously funded Al Qaeda and Al Nusra in Syria and Iraq. Her father is now in hell.
It's like this dramatic reveal on the.
It's like coming from the bottom up, like.
It's just such a man. Look. John McCain is complete. Like you can't piss on that dude's grave enough. You can't. Like, I mean, we started the show kicking around Rush Limbaugh's corpse, and that's great. But John McCain's an actual fucking war criminal, man.
Yep.
Like this is a dude who. How many times did he crash Navy planes before he finally got captured? Like it was at least 3 that we know of. Where this piece of shit just recklessly endangered the lives of his fellow fucking crewmen so he could fucking try and do a fucking burnout in an airplane. Like,
I liked him much more when they started taking pieces of his brain out. That's for sure. Right at the end, when they started taking pieces of his brain out, that was the best John McCain because he didn't say much. And
I'll tell you what I didn't see coming is the redemption arc of Sarah Palin.
Ooh.
I didn't.
There's a redemption arc. What's Super Palin doing now?
I think you're kind of imagining this redemption arc, Steve.
Yeah,
at least in terms of how she felt about Julian Assange, because her emails were released by WikiLeaks, and she reacted in a way that I'm sure anybody would if their private emails were published. And then she made like a couple-minute video of her like really thoughtfully and heartfelt, asking Donald Trump to pardon Julian Assange and drop the charges and shit like that. Like she fucking. And then I don't know if anybody even gave her context. I don't. But she did this random weird fucking cameo video about the Jimmy Dore and Sam Cedar and Bree Gray bullshit. And it was like
No thanks.
Like, you know how Sarah Palin kind of delivers in that sort of E.E. Cummings sort of flow? There's no real structure to it.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. She's almost like a slam poet. She really is.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
maybe
she really is.
Maybe if you like thought of the slam poet who exhibits like maximum derp.
Yeah, no, go back and
work.
watch that thing where she's like in the gun grabbing, like that one. Watch the clip of that video and then like just take a step back and put it next to any other like suburbanite white girl wannabe slam poet, and it's better because she's not even going after like.
You're saying she's not the worst slam poet either.
I'm saying her particular style, cadence, and delivery is borderline poetry. I really am.
It if your auntie did it in open mic night. You're saying,
yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's something you should judge a human as good by.
Not the first person I'd boo up. I'm not judging her character entirely based off of her delivery. I'm not. Man, that's ridiculous. It's not. I'm saying that watching her go from fuck WikiLeaks to Donald Trump, you need to fucking pardon this guy, is something that I really did not see coming. It was a surprise, given like just how much of a fuck show 2020 was. Like to see that happen.
I think that's probably more of a sign of her giving up on her political careers and ambitions, realizing that no one's going to accept her anymore, and like so she may as well just say things that she feels inside. Because to be honest, a lot of people might actually think, even the wankers may think, that Julian Assange.
Once Dancing for the Stars doesn't resurrect your career, maybe it's time. Maybe
American Idol's already propping up fucking what's her face, Kellyanne Conway, because her daughter went on there.
Kellyanne, she's a special one.
I just realized that one of W. Bush's kids is a fucking like TV personality.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
There's a few Bushes because one of that wasn't that guy who Donald Trump said about grabbing the pussies on the coach. That was a Bush from the Bush family as well. The guy
was it for TMZ?
Yeah, that's a Bush.
Yeah. He's a Bush family.
It was Billy Bush or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess.
All right.
That's why I think he thought he could get away with it, or he thought he was.
I think he's like a cousin or something. I don't think he's like the kid, but something like that.
Oh well, they all love each other. I'm sure they all think they're the best genes around.
Wait, hang on. Is that Neil's kid? Is anybody allowed to talk about Neil Bush? Everybody just kind of forgot about that, dude.
There's no Neil Bush.
He was involved in one of the biggest savings and loan scandals in American history.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that tied to that was tied to the Franklin scandal? The
Franklin scandal and the Keating Five. Like you can't decouple them. Yeah. Little Neil. Fucking
shady little Neil. Yeah. I mean the whole Bush family, man. It's nuts. They're nuts.
The Bush regime.
Well, now, didn't George W. Bush just come out with a book where he painted people's faces, immigrants' faces, and he's like, we love immigrants now. And I'm like, does no one remember your presidency? You want to talk about the rehabilitation of a shitty Republican political figure. George W. Bush's is crazy. He went from like crazy, awful war criminal. Everyone wants that dude freaking out and in prison, and then a couple of years later they're like, he paints pictures of puppies and he
gave candies to Michelle Obama.
Yeah,
look at those butterscotches they're sharing at the war hero John McCain's funeral with Michelle Obama. Oh my God, this is the kind of decency that I miss.
Yeah, that rehabilitation is
and the exact same thing. If it doesn't happen to Donald Trump because of how much they have invested in attacking him, Mike Pence, will be getting all of the butterscotch. And like Ellen will be calling him every single day, like, Mike, I know how you feel about gay people, but come on and dance. Please come on and dance. You can do it. You can.
Well, I think he looks like soft toffee. He likes soft toffee.
And you might be onto something there, man.
Something you really get into.
Mike Pence has to avoid the sweets because he needs to stay in shape. Otherwise, he can't escape those gay thoughts. He's got to be able to outrun them.
I knew that's where Steve was going.
You know, Mike Pence
you can't catch me, gay thoughts. You can't catch me. I'm Mike Pence.
You know, he had like a weird role sort of in the anthrax attacks. But like when there were the anthrax attacks in Congress, he like came out and made this whole thing about getting his whole family tested for if they had anthrax infection or whatever. No one did, right? But he like super hyped it and had like a whole press conference about it and deliberately tied it to like Saddam Hussein and the war on terror, the anthrax attack, even though, you know, domestic false flag, the anthrax attacks. I mean, it's pretty much known right at this point. So
is this the one where the guy who they held responsible for it was like literally named Caesar Psyop?
No, Bruce Ivans. Bruce Ivans is the guy that
Psyop. That's my name.
Okay, because there was the dude with the fucking like just. Well, this is what 2017 or 2018, not the 2002 anthrax attacks. But yeah, the guy they arrested was like named Caesar Psyop, and he had a fucking his van was like, I should go find it.
All right. Well, with the anthrax attacks itself, it was blamed on Bruce Ivans, and they followed another guy around whose name was Stephen Hatfill, who eventually got a bunch of money because they wrongfully like accused him and leaked his name to the press and all of this stuff, and people were talking about him being the anthrax attacker. But I think it was actually that guy's mentor, Stephen Hatfill's mentor, who was actually responsible. But Bruce Ivans totally was not responsible, and Stephen Hatfill may have been involved, but wasn't the main dude behind it, which is why they let him off, in my opinion. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about anthrax because it's just there's so much there, and you learn.
A hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's just really.
Sorry, I'm doing a bit of Rick James there. Yeah, anthrax. A hell of a drug.
Know, I learned today that the guy that played National Security Advisor at Dark Winter, David Gergen. If you know David Gergen, because people that like know the Bohemia Grove stuff. That Alex Jones video with David Gergen about it is really wild. But he was like really prominent in the Reagan administration and a bunch of other stuff. But he was funded by Wexner for like a long time. From like the wait, I might have to check my notes, but from like the 80s on, yeah. Wow. Just like they were really involved, and then he pops up like Wexner Goon at Dark Winter, and it's like, oh, of course.
All right. In terms of like, is there overlap from Dark Winter and Biden's cabinet? Like there was overlap from Dark Winter and Trump's cabinet. Is Cadlick still like hanging around at
I don't know. I haven't looked at Cadlick recently. That was mostly last year when he was really involved. But I think a lot of the stuff is staying. Well, they are really changing the vaccination program, or they've said they will. So we'll see what happens. But I think a lot of Cadlick's policies are going to stay anyway. Under Cadlick, among the things that I didn't really report about this aspect of what he was doing. But he and various departments at HHS were very involved in the AI modernization push at HHS. That is a big priority for the Biden administration, HHS. But direct tie between Dark Winter and Biden, I haven't seen it yet. But I think you have to keep in mind too, 2001, the people that participating in that are all pretty old by now. I do think Margaret Hamburg, who was at Dark Winter and was also FDA commissioner under Obama, was on the Biden transition COVID-19 task force, but that was disbanded with the inauguration. So, but she now advises the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Sorry about the laugh there, but that's funny.
It's okay. I had a little chuckle too at that revolving door.
Hey, maybe we should talk about Bill Gates's new media frenzy and Anderson Cooper interview, and he's back out here saying I'm gonna save the world again from climate change now. Trust Billy.
So right after Bill Gates buys the largest land purchase for farm acreage, knowing that Bill Gates is invested in the Impossible Meat Company, he then comes out and sells himself as a climate change superhero. And one of their biggest arguments is you have to go vegan in order to save the planet. You can't consume all of this meat, and it dovetails so nicely. I don't know. I'm sure there are more nefarious aspects to that interview, but that's what struck me.
You know, it's been over 100 years in America since or nearly 100 years since the Dust Bowls, and I'm really suspicious that buying that much land, if you don't treat it, look after it, you'll end up with that situation happening in America as well, where the Dust Bowls will rise up and destroy all of the neighboring lands. So, I mean, why Bill Gates is buying up that much land? Is he buying it to take it away from the farmers, to force people with it into that area? Is he taking it because it's a good time to purchase land? Or is he taking it because one day they could do something really despicable that would affect everybody around, and then they can say, oh, well, look, this is all climate change and the environment, when it's partially climate change and the environment, mostly people buggering about.
Well, I think the farmland agenda, he has a couple different things that he's probably trying to do with that. One of the things you have to keep in mind too is that before COVID, Bill Gates was really involved with Monsanto and the whole golden rice bullshit that, of course, trapped farmers in India, and slave debt led to this huge spike in farmer suicides. Now you have the farmers in India massively protesting, because people like Monsanto, aided by Bill Gates, really undercut the whole, traditional farming mechanisms of that society. And they do that everywhere, because then you turn life itself, a seed, a plant, into intellectual property, and then you can sue people if they have that plant on their property. And so, that's part of how Monsanto, for example, their land acquisition strategy, dirty one for a long time, was to plant one of their plants that was wind pollinated next to a field that was just regular crop, and then have it get dispersed and spread throughout the environment. And then they could go to any farm they wanted in the area and say, you're illegally planting our plants, and we're going to test your plants and prove it in court. And then because of that scheme, it would show up this trademark gene in it, right? And then they could be sued, and then Monsanto would come up and buy up the farm. So, that's the type of business model that Bill Gates backed before all of this. So he, is involved in genetically modified foods. In Mexico, there's a university that is experimenting with making edible vaccines through genetically modified plants, so that you will be eating vaccines if you consume this fruit or vegetable. I think that's the kind of, it's like whatever the antigen is that provokes the immune response, presumably like a spike protein in the case of COVID-19 vaccines, that will be produced within the tomato in this case. And then like
tomatoes.
Yeah, well, now they'll poison you. Well, so even with Monsanto, right, the way their GM stuff works against pesticide, you spray Roundup, which gives people cancer and kills everything, right? But it doesn't kill the genetically modified plant. And that's because that plant has been genetically modified to produce the freaking pesticide within it. So you end up eating the pesticide a lot of times when you eat these genetically modified plants. So it's really just the same idea with something from a virus or something, it's really not that different.
And the pesticides, they combine with a shit ton of runoff, and that contributes to all of these red tides and harmful algal blooms you see along the coast sides, and oftentimes it results in even fish kills too.
Yeah, well, because
it'll fuck up the levels of oxygen.
Yeah, well, a lot of that with the runoff is fertilizer. The red tide is usually fertilizer cause, because it's a nitrogen situation. Sorry, I studied this stuff in college. Sorry,
I'm a marine science
little
nerd, so I get you.
Oh, excellent. All right. I knew I liked you. Anyway. But so beyond that, I think also with Biden in the stimulus bill that's been recently announced removes a lot of existing farm aid that Trump had put in place even before COVID-19, because farms have been on a bad footing really ever since the 1970s, when you had the Secretary of Agriculture under Nixon, Earl Butz, promote this plan called Get Big or Get Out that totally gutted small farms across the United States and created these big, giant mega farms owned by corporations.
I'm smiling because
like
there's
that.
a Mix-a-Lot joke swirling around in my head right now.
My God.
I'm going to spare everybody. I am. I'm just
It's really his name.
Well,
Earl Butz.
I was laughing because it's like it's an anagram, isn't it? Of real butts. So.
I guess. Anyway, who else would Nixon put in charge of the food? Earl Butz. Where was I going with this? So they're removing the farm aid. So even during COVID-19 and all of that stuff, even with this aid, a lot of farms have been going under and declaring bankruptcy. Now with the aid gone, it's going to be huge. And who do you think is going to buy up that farmland when it goes belly up? It's going to be Bill Gates and his best friend Warren Buffett and people like that buying all the farmland up, because Henry Kissinger, who's like their guru anyway, a lot of times for this type of stuff, if you control the food, you control the people. He wrote a whole paper when he was Secretary of State about using food as a weapon to subjugate populations that dissented against American imperial control. Of course, that was abroad, but obviously the war on domestic terror, it's the focus is on the US now. And they're taking control of the food supply. So if you're going to weather the storm of the next couple years in the US, start gardening, or get somewhere where you can garden, or get in really good and become super good pals with the co-op people. Figure something out.
Did you ever, any of you, watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes when you were younger?
Fuck! I thought you were about to say Attack on Titan. I was gonna get so gassed. Never mind.
I'm sorry.
What?
Sorry.
Well, I remember it, but I was like, I remember watching it. I don't really remember it.
We're in that realm. It's like it turns out it was a prophecy and not a cartoon. We're getting there.
Making your food poisonous. Thanks, Bill Gates. Plus, the Impossible Burgers had major problems when they came out. People were having like allergic reactions to it, because the thing that like mimics the appearance of blood in the burger gave people like anaphylactic shock or something like that, because it's like found in that burger in quantities like numerous times over what it ever is present in nature. So they say it's a natural extract, but they give you so much of it that it like gives you
Bill Gates hamburgers now causes fits.
Yeah, basically.
We hate hamburgers, and then we that's terrible. Man.
I'm kind of conflicted though, because like I don't eat mammals. So I'm kind of like, I like that there's more alternatives around, but I don't want to help these people. So it's complicated. But the whole agenda here, I think, with this is part of this. That they're trying to engineer a famine globally. They're really open about wanting to reduce the global population, and have been for a really long time. You cull all the beef and you get rid of all the meat, and you've created all these meat dependent societies in places like the US. It's really common in South America too, Brazil, Argentina, Chile. It's all beef, so you take the beef away, and the people, what are they going to eat? If you don't have a viable alternative, they're going to have to go to whatever, the Bill Gates slop of the day. That's basically, they want us to eat and consume lab-made slop. Who knows what's in it, but they're all about tinkering with people's genes. The medical stuff we were talking about earlier, what they want is to have everything tailored to your DNA profile. And they already have startups and stores and businesses that they market to the really wealthy in places like the UK and New York and stuff, that will take your DNA and profile it and tell you what to eat and what to buy.
I know.
It comes with wearables, and you can scan stuff at the grocery store, and your wearable will tell you if it's good for your body based on your DNA.
I'm already getting ads for that on Twitter.
For real? Yeah. So I'm telling you guys, it's coming. I guess you need to make those shirts, Steve. I don't know. I'm kidding.
Yeah, if you don't mind being turned into a cartoon, I'm down.
I don't want to be right, though. I mean, I don't know.
Look, I don't want to be right either.
Yeah,
I don't. Not about this shit. Like, fucking, in terms of what I'm perfectly willing to be wrong about, yeah, it's all of this. All of this. Give me a winning Blackhawks season, maybe. Let me be right about hockey, okay? But, like, fucking technocratic panopticon, I could be wrong about that. I could.
You know, progressives stop upholding their fucking white saviors and thy holy Saint Bernard and her great mistress AOC. Like, hey guys, I think you're gonna spearhead us into this great fascist reset. Prove me wrong, guys. Hey, Sunrise, I think you're co-opted pieces of shit who really don't give a shit about the environment at the leadership level because you're complicit in the great fascist reset. Prove me wrong, please.
Well, the Great Reset is marketed and basically set up to appeal and get the support specifically of people like the Squad. You know, that's how they market it all. Sustainable, inclusive, blah, blah, blah. It's the same words they drop.
You can see it in their adverts as well, and the way they design their adverts, who they're marketing it to. And it's all that trendy, up and coming people who can be tricked.
Have you guys seen those Davo Daily shit, like that update that looks like it's the fucking Nickelodeon set from 1994?
It does. Yeah,
best Nickelodeon year ever.
That lady or whatever that hosts it, Lily Singh or something. She's like apparently a ditzy Canadian YouTuber. But I was looking up some articles for Epstein stuff on Vanity Fair, and they were like filming her and asking her opinions about stuff, and like she's being promoted by, I guess she's getting payback for being the Davos evangel to.
She was a fucking Viner. She doesn't know shit. She's just there to serve as their mouthpiece.
Well,
yeah.
The World Economic Forum's made it really clear that they want to mobilize the youth to back them up.
Oh, yeah.
So they want, the Hitler youth, the World Economic Forum youth, the Schwabian youth.
Right. Schwabian.
Swabian.
Sorry.
He comes from. I will tell you, he comes from Upper Swabia. And that comes from Schwab.
He's the expert on all things Schwab, so I'll defer to Johnny on that.
No, it is true. It's a Swabian. It's a whole Swabian affair.
And so that's how you say it. Johnny's gone really deep on this stuff, so I'm just, crazy. But the fact they want to mobilize the youth, I mean, that's why they're marketing. They have people like Greta Thunberg. Yeah. They have the Sunrise Movement, and a lot of the Squad, like AOC specifically, engages with platforms that get younger viewers, and because of the prevailing very long existing political culture in the U.S. of this political celebrity, the need to have a political celebrity and the worship of political celebrity. You're getting basically, I mean, they're definitely going to get a decent portion of the youth who will be like, yeah, my parents don't believe in climate change the way that Greta tells me it works, so send them to the gulag, I mean, we may have kids like that. I mean, they're already promoting like ratting out your neighbors, ratting out your friends from high school if they were at the Capitol riots and stuff like this. So it's not that long.
Because the FBI needs our help.
Well, there were actually cases of people ratting out their parents also from January 6th. So to think that won't continue.
Snitches.
Yeah, snitches suck.
Kick those fucking kigs out.
Does no one realize how much? Do these people not realize how much snitches suck? I mean, are they just like clearly unaware of like how low?
No, dude. The last couple of years have been all about promoting and rewarding snitch culture.
Ooh, yeah, I know.
Straight up, man.
One thing about all of this, because I just talking just before we get away from it, there is one thing I can say about Schwab, where he's got previous and past in this from well before the time of the World Economic Forum, is after World War II, when he was old enough, he was actually heading up some form of reconciliatory group that was young German kids trying to reassociate French kids with German kids and stop them hating Germans so much after the war. So trying to change their minds and change their things about all of the things that happened. Oh, well, you know, the war's gone by, but now we're a new generation. We can go on all one together. Let's forget about the Nazis and let's go on with this stuff instead. And that was the birth. I mean, that approach was the birth of what would eventually turn out into the student riots in Germany 20 odd years later, where the German youth at the time who were in universities did not know anything about the war because nobody would speak about it, because projects like that went round and said, oh, let's get over that and let's put that to the side and let's go on. Well, it didn't allow any healing for the people who had gone through some of the worst trauma of World War II, in which, like, there was so many people suffered some psychological events from that crap. That was like one of the most horrific times, especially when you go to places like France and Germany. They were the front lines of it. Like, you know, there was horrific stuff happened there. And Klaus Schwab was already, before he was in university, you know, doing that sort of thing of getting the youth involved in changing their mind and trying to get them on board with this new generation that we're creating. That's something he's been doing since the 50s.
Yeesh.
Wild. I mean, there's a lot to Schwab. It's crazy.
That makes me feel amazing.
Right.
So happy to be a Zoomer right now.
Manipulating people from way back.
Yeah.
So it's not just my generation.
He runs in the family of these people as well. That's all I'll say.
All right. I'm looking forward to the follow up to this, man. The thing that kills me about the way that kids are being exploited through this is that it's almost like the predator class found a way to skirt child labor laws. We'll turn them all into little volunteers. We'll get the same quality and quantity of time, energy, and resources because they'll fundraise for us. And we won't have to pay these little shits anything.
I'm surprised it didn't get a bad rep doing that sort of thing after the Anders Behring Breivik thing, because he targeted a political youth camp. Because if you suddenly politicize young people, you pull them into your political ideology, and you become targets for all enemies. They become targets for all enemies of that ideology, and they don't even know that's going to happen. They don't even know the risk they're going to take. They're dragged into it and coaxed into it like anything else. And there, you had 73, 79 people who were shot at that camp. I think it was something, kids who were shot because adults are forcing political ideologies on people early on. It's straight brainwashing out of school, you know. Don't let them experience anything else or think about anything else. Let's get our politics smashed into their brain as quickly as possible. But it also has other effects and other consequences too. So I'm surprised that's still allowed to go on around the place. But everything that I'm surprised is still allowed to go on around the place is still go on around the place. You know, it's like, don't bring kids into politics. Just don't bring kids into politics in that way. Don't make them. Don't force them. Wait till they're adults for them to.
If you don't,
otherwise you destroy them.
If you don't bring kids into politics, you automatically eliminate like 80% of our nation's greatest platitudes. And I mean, really, like the platitude economy is just as real and just as physical as the fiat currency that we spend every day. But no, really the exploitation of and wearing children as a fucking shield or as armor is something that politicians have been doing. I don't know, my entire life, but in order they've commodified like their participation now.
Yeah,
in a way that I've never seen before.
Well, you know, they're openly moving with this fourth industrial revolution thing, and the patents are already there from like Microsoft and stuff, that there's going to be like mining of cryptocurrency based on the human body, your brain, your brain waves, your body heat, all of this stuff. And now, you know, data is the new oil. So data is going to be like, you know, data-based currency. is what they want to make, the future basically. But in terms of child labor, I mean, that the system they want to set up, that's going to be birth to grave involvement. So if that's the new, I guess, goalpost for how money is earned, I mean, then child labor, I mean, that's totally going to be a thing then, if that's deemed to be labor in the new society that they're trying to
earn crypto
usher
while
in.
you share your thoughts online as a 9-year-old.
Yeah, but I mean, they're clearly being, they clearly, based on how, these technologies have developed in smartphone use for super young kids and stuff, I mean, it's obviously going to move to something that's going to be very encompassing of children and the effort to change the education system. Yeah. They'll just redefine it.
They'll just create labor as being something different, and they'll rename it, repurpose it, and kids will be doing it, and that'll be the way. And there is an extent when I was young, man, I really wanted to get a job quite early when I was young, just because I wanted some money to spend on chocolate, and the best way to do it was like, the only ways to do it back when I was young was to get a paper round, go and deliver papers. That was like the only job that was open to kids, that they still allowed kids to do. And I do think, I always thought when I was a kid, like, I wish they would allow me to do a little bit of work somewhere or do something. So I'm always like, yes, we don't want to exploit children, but also we take away all the ability for children to understand the next stage of their life. Then it's really annoying and frustrating, because I felt that when I was a child. I wanted some money so I could do stuff.
I told my dad when I was asked my dad for a bike when I was 9, and he's all, hell yeah, get in the truck, let's go get you a bike. Okay. And he drove to the Roundtree trailer and signed me up to detassel corn.
Yeah, baby.
And so that it got the bike. I did. But yeah, I mean, it was just raking leaves or shoveling fucking snow or something, dude. Anything.
There is an element of that. It's when it gets co-opted by these big organizations, big companies, and start to use it.
Or like child labor laws. A lot of that exists because of the Industrial Revolution and how children were treated in factories, not about like lemonade stands and stuff
and
like that, right?
I
was just going to bring that up.
And there's a Boondocks episode about that lemonade stand.
Yeah. But Johnny just brought up a really good point about.
Yuval Noah Harari. He says that we're in an analogous situation to where we were at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and all that idea of the exploitation of children. If you look at what came after the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, I mean, I've done loads of research on the 1800s, and it's beyond sickening what you read. And I think we're going to have techno poorhouses, techno work camps, all of those type of things will happen. And in the future, our ancestors will look back and say, oh my God, look at that shit.
Yeah,
kids do. Where really we want to build a society where we can let kids kind of explore what they want to do themselves, in a sense, instead of having to learn to work in Amazon.
I think it's going to be maybe even worse than it was then, though, because like Harari says too, it's now going to be worse. It's not about exploited and unexploited anymore. It's about exploited or irrelevant. That in the age of AI and the fourth industrial revolution, you're fighting against being relevant, not to you or your friends or your loved ones or whatever, but to the ruling class. So you can either be exploited by the ruling class, or you can be irrelevant and marked for dead by them. Basically.
Which accepts that they exploit us all the time.
Which means everyone is either exploited, and then he says it's much better to be exploited than irrelevant. Right, that our only choices now are to be exploited or to be totally irrelevant.
My response to him would be, you become irrelevant when you've been exploited enough. So, I mean, the fact is that they're part joined. They're not.
Well, sure. Yeah, I think that's a good counter argument. But I mean, that's basically how they're looking at it, right? Everyone's going to be exploited, and the ones that can't be exploited, well, what are we going to do with them?
Well, I mean, and the ones getting exploited.
Real quick, there was a television show called Person of Interest, where the AI that ran the surveillance of the fucking planet categorized every human as relevant or irrelevant, relevant to the algorithm because they were about to commit a crime or about to become a victim of a crime. And that was what that particular AI determined relevancy on. But if there was a separate, a rival AI, eventually, and the only people that were relevant to the AI were its like agents or targets. Targets became relevant to the AI, and the people the AI dispatched to take care of the targets were relevant to the AI. Everyone else was irrelevant.
And eventually that is everybody.
Yeah.
It whittles down. AI in general is like the future of where that's going, and the idea of having, if you had multiple AIs, only one's going to come out on top eventually. It's such a like, when you go into quantum computing and how much power they'll have, we can't even understand what's going to be going on. We don't even know where the rules are going to be coming from or how it's going to happen. And giving that sort of power away to something we don't know is just one of the biggest mistakes humans ever made. And we need to start thinking, and this is really sad, we need to start thinking about how to preserve the human race, by the sounds of what these guys are saying, how to preserve real humans. And that means that at some point there is going to be a conflict between the future beings and the humans, because we're going to want to remain relevant, and to remain relevant a lot of the time when you're being made irrelevant is to get rid of the thing that makes you irrelevant.
Well, yeah, and if the only way we can become irrelevant is by becoming part of the cloud, you can count me out of that.
Yeah. Well, they're going to try and sell it as the only way you can be included in the new economy or the new society is if you willingly allow this to happen to you. And they openly talk about, like, people, Harari and these other people talk about, I think we mentioned it earlier, how it's going to be a different species. They call it, to them, it's evolution, right? Altering human evolution, they say, and things like that, to create this transhumanist thing. But that's not what they're doing. It's the elimination of the human species. It's hijacking the human collective and enslaving it. That's really what it is. We have to be clear about that. And we have to be clear about, if you're going to let, they, like Harari says, the red line is when you let them put the stuff in your body. And I think we're getting close to a point where there needs to be, as that starts to get rolled out more, has to be a red line for people that let Elon Musk put a brain in their chip. Like, I'm not going to let you around me. When Elon Musk might have the controls in your freaking brain. We have to draw a line at some point, and we should start thinking about that, because at a certain point, when you would let them modify you enough to, are you human anymore? When does that point become, do we treat these people as things develop? Or are they like, Schwarzenegger-y style murderous doom robots? Where does that?
It's going to be really hard to understand where the limits are, and because if people are choosing not to be human anymore, they've got to understand that puts them in direct competition with humans, and that's direct competition has always led to one thing. So either way, this is either going to lead to genocide one way or genocide the other way. There's they're building us up for something that's going to be us versus them, and they want to be on top of that. So they want to be the ones that are most likely to win.
Can we just have like loosely confederated networks of communities that opted out from all of this shit? Like, you can have your smart city, you can have your internal organ surveillance. You could take a crap and know exactly everything that may or may not be wrong with you physically and emotionally. You can do that.
But eventually you'll be a fuel cell. Eventually you'll have clothes and you'll have wearables that will be able to use the energy you expend or the different things that you expend to energize the surrounding areas. And so that means that humans will be valuable as a power source in some way that is probably closer.
Yeah, they might come looking the more they need it. Yeah. Matrix style. I think the solution there maybe is if you want to have these communities and ensure they succeed, look in some sort of defense system that involves EMPs and fry their circuits. That's really all I could really think of in that sense. They're trying to militarize everything. But the thing is
guns. Maybe. If they're coming at you with something electrical, maybe squirt guns. Maybe it's simpler.
Super soakers.
I'd wish.
Well, I default back to what Bill Binney suggested, which is samurai lessons every night.
Bill Binney straight up said, like, what was it? 3 what's the fucking word for like a company, or is it just company of samurai? I don't know, but anyway, it was like 90,000 samurai needed to show up at the nation's capital. That's what. And short of that, he also suggested picking Congress out of the phone book every 2 years, just pulling random names out of the phone book. Like, couldn't be worse.
That sounds a bit like what was that movie with Steve Martin? The Jerk. The Jerk, yeah.
Nathan R. Johnson.
Oh, that's a brilliant movie.
Running out. He's all, I'm somebody. Yeah, dude.
Was one of my favorites when I was younger. But that wonderful scene where he's I want to be somebody. Finally, I've got my name in the telephone books, and then the person who's randomly picking people to shoot at the telephone book puts his number and puts their finger on their name. I like
he said the opening line of that film is Steve Martin looking straight into the camera, going, "Things weren't always so great for me. I was born a poor black child."
That movie is one of the best comedies.
He gets into the car, he's hitchhiking, he says, "Take me to the end of the line," and the guy legit drives him to the end of the fence. He's like, "Yeah, there you go." It's just, oh man, that movie, yeah, God,
brilliant invention. He gets sued eventually, doesn't he? He gets sued eventually for his invention for glasses.
Yeah. I don't need. All I need is this ashtray. And this lamp.
I'm gonna go and watch it now. That's what I'm gonna do.
It's been about 2 hours, guys. We can wrap. He's wandered off into Steve Martin movie territory. Fucking,
that's good era, Tim. Is Steve Martin? That's like Man with Two Brains, Steve Martin.
Yeah, pre-Disney.
Yeah.
Same with that. Disney managed to make Steve Martin no longer be funny. They did the same thing to Eddie Murphy. If you're a comedian and you want to be funny in your twilight years, avoid Disney like the plague. And I realize that I'm saying this as someone who is neither in my twilight years, hopefully, or a successful comedian. But seems to be your soul and your ability
you will hate
to
yourself. You will
remain funny.
You get money to hate yourself forever. That's really what Disney is. They'll give you money and you'll hate yourself forever.
I learned today that super mega Epstein pal from MIT, Danny Hillis, from 1996 to 2000 was like basically in charge of Disney's Imagineering department, while he was also still hanging out with Epstein all the time.
What?
Yeah.
Disney Epstein link.
The Imagineering department. Yuck.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
When I found out that Epstein was heavily involved in interlocking, it fucking tripped me out because I was like going to apply for a scholarship there. Not that Epstein would have come after me, but I don't think.
I don't know. Was your hair long, Steve?
No, not at the time.
You look like a pretty girl.
It was mostly shaved or at a multiple colored mohawk or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It was
anyway. Go back to your story. Sorry, I was.
But no, it's just the creepiness of. I do cut a fine figure in a sarong. I do. You rock one of those. Soccer and hockey my whole life. I mean, you could bounce a quarter off it, like it, yeah, confident man, but
he's just trying to lead me in like a siren. He is. He's like leading me in. I can't resist anymore, Steve.
Managed.
I'm coming.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? I would have to get smuggled out of the country, but I would leave the U.S. for you, Johnny Vedmore. I would.
I love you.
This escalated very quickly.
Yeah. This is an interesting bromance.
Yeah. Well, I do. I'm quite into him now.
Well, they're becoming.
I am a charming motherfucker.
I know. I like how it started with.
Don't gas him up like that, Johnny.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll stop. I'll control myself. I'll be professional. Come on.
No, I can put it in a drawer. I can.
Oh, what? You can put it in a drawer. Don't close the drawer.
Oh my god.
Hey, where can people find your work, Johnny?
Yeah. I'm over with it. Oh no, she's up there. How does it work? There you go.
You got it.
I'm doing a lot of Unlimited Hangout at the moment because it's a place to be, because everywhere else I was getting censored, and I don't get censored on Unlimited Hangout, which is a real fine thing nowadays. Hard thing to find. It's like a real like gold. So really there, I got my own website, johnnyvedmore.com, but it turns out I'm on Wix, which means that it's a Israeli unit 8,200 startup company, and I'm going to have to get off there soon because obviously, once they realize I'm writing about their people on there, I'm probably going to get trouble anyway. So who knows, but Unlimited Hangout for sure. I'm enjoying doing some of the videos and stuff now, and we plan on doing a bit more, and love to all the people, man.
My stuff, you can find it also at unlimitedhangout.com. Unlimited Hangout has a channel on Telegram and also a public chat room. For those that are interested, the channel's really cool because every time we post a new article, regardless of who wrote it, a new video, and also my stuff from The Last American Vagabond, if you're looking for a place to get like a feed basically of just all of my content and Unlimited Hangout content, I would recommend subscribing to that channel. While Telegram is still around, a lot of these, platforms, they're talking about deplatforming, and we'll probably have to hop between them as time goes on. But also Unlimited Hangout has a channel on the Rockfin. So if you are a Rockfin subscriber to Steve, you can get all of Unlimited Hangout's premium content for free included in that. We recently launched a new video series called Dump Davos about World Economic Forum related stuff. Our next episode is going to be about Klaus Schwab. Everything you ever wanted to know about Klaus, which is quite a lot. So that'll be, exclusive to Rockfin and Patreon subscribers first, and then we make it public after a couple days, that type of deal. And I have a podcast there. And you can follow me on Twitter for now. I'm also on Mastodon. I think I have a Gab thing, but I haven't been able to get back into it. I made it like 3 years ago for people that are on that. But you can follow it. I'll recuperate the account eventually. And I think beyond that, that's really it. I have a mailing list you can sign up for on Unlimited Hangout if you are worried about not getting access to content because of them deplatforming at some point, people like me and whatever. You can sign up for that and get stuff sent to your inbox. I think that's pretty much the whole spiel.
Kick ass. What you got, Jones?
These streams are always good for my soul. You can find me on Twitter, Glory Jones, #Free Assange next to it. Or if you're in LA County, you can find me on the ground. I'm sure if you see me that you as well can outmaneuver an LAPD bike force because they're dumb. And yeah, just keep sounding the alarm on any of this surveillance shit you see because it's going to get worse. And it's going to be an era of gatekeeping. So fuck gatekeepers. If anyone tries to gatekeep you, I suggest a backhand. Just like that.
Sir,
Nice.
you have offended me. I demand a duel. I know how to do that.
You clearly do.
You're
From
welcome,
totally
different
we lead with the elbow, but yeah, it's fair.
Everybody, again, if you're not following Whitney and Johnny, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Honestly, if it's 2021, what the fuck are you doing if you haven't had Whitney Webb on your show yet? Honestly,
or again,
just straight up. Straight up. And you know what, and for that matter as well, it's 2021. If you haven't had my boy Steve on yet, then fuck you.
Oh,
I am a beautiful man with a dizzying intellect.
True.
He's a dickhead, guys, but he has some good points.
He does have good points.
Shut the
Steve is one of my favorite people to talk to in independent media. Steve is real and calls it like it is and is funny.
We're gonna clip that
That is
out.
a rare mix. Yeah.
We're definitely not clipping that out.
Dude, I bet Star already clipped it out. Watch.
Yeah, not for my own edification, for spamming purposes on Twitter. I'm already a fan of me. We're cool. We are.
I know it's not a crime being me, but maybe it should be.
Yeah, no, if
Still
I
hard.
ever get a little bit too like egocentric, there's usually a giant bag of mushrooms in front of me. So we
know
can
what? I was
take care
thinking
of
of
that.
being nice and being like, maybe I should like make some Wikipedia pages for like content creators like Nico, because he asked, and Steve and Combo Couch and all these people. But you know what? Now I just know I would shit post your Steve. So
I mean,
okay.
But yeah, again, guys, if you go to here's something new that I've been working on. If you go to wikishark.com, you can see all of the Wikipedia pages that are trending that day, and just look to see which one is spiking. And Wikipedia accounts are free to make. Go to that page that's trending on that day and insert a random ass paragraph about Julian Assange, because that's yeah, that's kind of one of the things I've been working on until they revoke my editing privileges. So
Then
yeah,
make a new account.
Yep, I have like 3 accounts. So once they get rid of anon this number, they have anon that number, and then they have glory random number. And then they have all the other accounts I'm going to create because I have a bunch of alt accounts. So
did you know that Israel's government pays people to edit Wikipedia like that for them?
Yeah. I'm saying if they can do it, you can do it too, guys.
Yeah.
I love looking through the Wikipedia.
Troll them at their own fucking game.
If you look through people's pages, the best one I found so far for edits that have been removed from Wikipedia's was when someone changed Ben Affleck's face for Osama bin Laden. That was my favorite I found in the Wikipedia history so far.
Glory had a fantastic edit of Neera Tanden's Wikipedia page the other week. I have a screenshot of it. I'll send it to you. It was lovely work. It was.
Oh, I think I saw it. It was like right after like Crony or something. They put in the first line.
Oh yeah, I said Neera Tanden or what? It was like the whole intro that I shit posted.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, just in
Garrett,
I'll use gatekeepers terms. I corrected some disinformation that was in her introduction. So I fucking rambled through this outro, but yeah, much love, y'all.
Okay, so tomorrow, Zach
and I was on Anonymous Bites Back. Big up the Anons.
Oh yeah,
Anonymous Bites Back. Check that out.
On Anonymous Bites Back last night, Lubers was saying we might do a show tonight. I don't know. We'll do a show Thursday too. But yeah, Zach from the Unfit Statesman will be here Thursday evening. Piers Robinson Sunday morning. Looking forward to that. And I don't know who we have Sunday afternoon. I don't. But big thanks to Whitney, to Johnny, Glory Jones, Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos, everyone in the chat, and the people who were watching on Rockman. Look, man, while there's still like a couple hundred people on YouTube right now, go make your free Rockman account. It's free. It's free. You know, if you dig what we do, you can support the show. It's $9.99 a month, and you get all of the premium content on the network for it. It's kind of like Netflix, but the Obamas aren't involved, so we don't have to fuck kids. We just have to make the content.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good plug.
Yeah, we don't even have to bomb Syria.
This is modern marketing. This is what it's like.
We'll see you next time, guys. Good luck to us all.
Love y'all.
Peace.